Hello, dear friends. My name is Alexian, and I am a storyteller and wizard, traveling between fantastical worlds. Welcome to the Library of Wonders, a place where stories come alive and magic intertwines with reality. Here, among countless tomes and scrolls, tales from all corners of magical realms are kept. Each book is a portal to an amazing adventure full of kindness, wisdom, and enchantment. Let me tell you a little about myself and how I fell in love with storytelling. Long ago, when I was still a young apprentice of magic, I lived in a small town surrounded by dense forests and high mountains. In our town, there was an old library filled with ancient books and manuscripts. This library was my favorite place, where I spent hours immersing myself in worlds created by the imagination of great authors. One day, while exploring the dusty shelves, I stumbled upon a book that immediately caught my attention. It was unusual. Its pages were blank, but the cover glowed with a soft golden light. Curiously, I opened the book and felt it come to life in my hands. Suddenly, the pages began to fill with words and images, telling stories of distant lands and amazing creatures. I was enchanted and couldn't tear myself away from reading. Each story was like a window into a new world, full of wonders and adventures. That day, I decided to embark on my first real adventure. Inspired by the stories from the book, I packed a small backpack with essentials and set off into the forest surrounding our town. The forest was full of mysteries and secrets, and I felt it held many untold stories. As I made my way through the dense thickets, I came across an old path leading to an abandoned tower. The tower was shrouded in legends, and it was said that the spirit of an ancient wizard lived there. I decided to find out for myself. Climbing the creaky stairs, I found myself in a room full of ancient artifacts and books. In the center of the room stood a table with a map pointing to hidden treasures of the forest. Suddenly, I heard a rustle and turned around. Before me appeared the ghostly silhouette of an old wizard. He was not hostile. On the contrary, his eyes shone with kindness and wisdom. The wizard told me that he had been watching me since I found that very book in the library. He saw potential and a desire to learn in me and offered to make me his apprentice. Thus began my training in magic and the art of storytelling. The wizard taught me how to weave magic into words so they would come alive and inspire others. He showed me how to travel between worlds to gather new stories and share them with the world. One of the first lessons I received was understanding the power of words. The wizard explained that every word has its own energy and can change the world around us. He taught me how to use this power to create stories that can inspire and bring joy. We spent long hours in his tower, discussing ancient legends and myths, studying magical symbols and spells. With each passing day, I became more confident in my abilities. One day, the wizard suggested I embark on a solo journey to test my skills. He gave me a magical compass that always pointed the way to new stories and sent me on my way. My first journey led me to a land inhabited by talking animals. There, I met a wise old bear who told me about an ancient prophecy and a cheerful squirrel who knew all the secret paths of the forest. Together, we set out in search of a magical spring that, according to legend, could grant any wish. The journey was full of trials and unexpected encounters. We crossed raging rivers, traversed dense forests, and climbed high mountains. At every step, new discoveries and amazing stories awaited us. I recorded them in my book, to later share with you. When we finally reached the spring, I realized that the greatest treasure was not the fulfillment of wishes, but the friendship and adventures we experienced together. I returned to my mentor with new knowledge and stories, ready to share them with the world. Since then, I not only record the stories I see and hear, but also create my own. I hope my stories bring you as much joy and inspiration as they have brought me. Together, we will embark on amazing journeys full of magic and adventure. I eagerly await our new meetings and hope you will become part of this fairy tale world. In my library of wonders, you will find tales for every taste, stories of friendship and bravery, of kindness and magic, of animals and distant lands. Each tale is not only entertainment, but also a lesson that will help you become better and wiser. I invite you to join me on these journeys. May each of your days be filled with wonders and kindness. Until we meet again, my dear listeners, together we will discover many amazing worlds and stories. Enchanting evening, dear listeners. I, Alexian, am delighted to welcome you to my Library of Wonders. Today, I will tell you a tale of courage and kindness, about how anyone can achieve great things if they dare to try. But remember, this is no ordinary library, and my story will come to life as if by magic. Let's take my magical compass, which will open the path to the tale, and embark on this wonderful journey together. In a distant kingdom, beyond high mountains and deep forests, lived a little dragon named Flix. He was the youngest in his family and always dreamed of adventures. Despite his small size, Flix had a big heart and incredible bravery. One day, as the sun was just beginning to rise over the horizon, Flix overheard the old wise dragon, the guardian of the kingdom, talking about a missing magical stone that maintained peace and harmony in their world. Without this stone, the kingdom could fall into chaos. Flix decided that this was his chance to prove himself and help his people. He approached the wise dragon and said, "I will find the magical stone and return it to our kingdom." The wise dragon looked at Flix with surprise, but saw determination in his eyes and said, "This is a dangerous journey, little dragon, but if you are truly ready, I will give you a map to help you find the way." With the map in his paws and courage in his heart, Flix set off on his journey. Along the way, Flix encountered an enchanted labyrinth made of tall living hedges that constantly changed their positions. This labyrinth was full of illusions that could confuse any traveler. Flix knew he needed to be attentive and rely on his instincts to find the exit. Inside the labyrinth, Flix met a little firefly who was also lost. The firefly offered his help, saying, "I can light your way if you help me find the way out." Together, they began searching for the exit, following the firefly's light and avoiding the illusions that tried to confuse them. Helping each other, Flix and the firefly soon found the central part of the labyrinth, where an ancient tree grew. This tree was the key to solving the labyrinth. Flix noticed that the shadow of the tree pointed to a hidden path leading to the exit. Following the shadow, they managed to escape the labyrinth. After Flix and the firefly emerged from the labyrinth, they stopped by a lake to rest and discuss what each of them would do next. The firefly, glowing with joy, said, "Thank you, Flix, for your help. Without you, I would never have found the way out. Now I must return to my family, but I will always remember our adventure." Flix smiled and replied, "Thank you for the light that guided me on my journey. I'm glad we could help each other. Good luck, Firefly." They said their goodbyes, and the Firefly flew towards his home, leaving a glowing trail behind. Inspired by their shared success, Flix continued his journey. But next, his path led through a valley inhabited by giant stone golems. These creatures were peaceful but very slow and unaware of their surroundings. Flix had to pass through the valley without disturbing them. He noticed that the golems moved in rhythm with the wind passing through the rocks. Flix began to move in the same rhythm as the golems, and thanks to his agility and attentiveness, he was able to pass through the valley without disturbing a single one. Finally, after a long and arduous journey, Flix reached the cave where the magical stone was kept. The cave was guarded by a huge and fearsome dragon who did not want to give up the stone. But Flix was not afraid. He approached the dragon and said, "I have not come to fight. I have come to restore peace to our kingdom." Hearing these words, the huge dragon pondered. He saw in the little dragon not only courage, but also kindness. "You are truly brave, little dragon," he said. "I will give you the stone if you promise to use it for good." Flix solemnly promised, and the huge dragon handed him the magical stone. Happy and proud, Flix returned to his kingdom, where he was welcomed as a hero. The magical stone was returned to its place, and peace once again reigned in the kingdom. Since then, Flix became a symbol of courage and kindness, showing everyone that even the smallest can achieve great things if they have a kind heart and bravery. And so our tale ends. It's time to activate the compass and return to the Library of Wonders. But before we say goodbye, I want to ask you a few questions to reflect on what you might have learned from Flix's adventures. In what situations in your life could you show the same attentiveness and resourcefulness as Flix in the labyrinth? Why is it important to maintain kindness and courage, even when facing those who may seem formidable or unfriendly, as Flix did with the huge dragon? What qualities of Flix would you like to develop in yourself to become better and help others? Thank you for joining me on this magical journey. I hope you found this enchanting story as interesting and captivating as I did. Until next time, my dear listeners, I eagerly await our next adventure. Good evening, dear listeners. It's me again, Alexian, your storyteller and wizard, and your good friend. I'm delighted to welcome you to my Library of Wonders. Today, we will journey to sunny Africa to hear a fun and instructive tale about how an elephant learned to dance. Let's take my magical compass, which will guide us into the story. In the distant African savannah, there lived an elephant named Bumba. Bumba was the biggest and strongest elephant around, but he had one dream: to learn how to dance. Every evening, he watched as the animals gathered in a clearing and held joyful dances to the sounds of drums and songs. But Bumba always felt too shy to join in, thinking that his big feet and bulky body weren't suited for dancing. One day, as the sun was setting on the horizon, Bumba decided it was time to pursue his dream. He went to the kind tortoise, who was renowned for her dancing skills, and asked her to teach him how to dance. Bumba shared his doubts with the tortoise and asked if she would teach him. The tortoise, hearing Bumba's request, looked at him thoughtfully and said, "Bumba, do you think I always knew how to dance? Look at me. I'm not the fastest or the most graceful, and I certainly can't teach you." Hearing this, Bumba felt disheartened and was about to leave, but the tortoise continued, "But don't be quick to give up. I can still help you. Once upon a time, long ago when I was young, I too dreamed of dancing. But as you know, we tortoises are slow, like tortoises." The tortoise spoke slowly, as she was indeed a tortoise, and her words came out slowly too. "After many attempts, I learned to listen to the music with my heart, and it helped me move to the rhythm despite my shape and speed. Remember, Bumba, dancing is not just about moving your body, but also about the joy in your heart." Inspired by the tortoise's words, Bumba began to practice. At first, he tried to mimic the movements of other animals, but it looked quite funny and didn't go without some awkward and amusing moments. He tried so hard to imitate the monkey's moves that he accidentally knocked a branch with his trunk, the very branch the monkey was sitting on. The branch fell right onto Bumba's head, and the monkey, as it fell, grabbed onto Bumba's trunk with all its limbs and refused to let go for a while. The lion and zebra couldn't help but laugh when Bumba, trying to make a graceful turn, accidentally stepped on his own tail and nearly fell. In fact, he almost fell right onto the lion and zebra themselves. I think they wouldn't have found it so funny then. In the end, feeling disheartened and embarrassed, Bumba went to the pond, where he sat sadly, looking at his reflection in the water. At that moment, the tortoise slowly swam up to him and said, "Bumba, mistakes can and will happen while you're learning. There's nothing wrong with that. The important thing is not to get upset and to keep trying. Remember, dancing is the joy in your heart." Encouraged by the tortoise's support, Bumba decided to try again. He closed his eyes and let the music guide him. Gradually, his movements became more confident, and his big feet suddenly felt as light as feathers. He twirled and stomped to the rhythm, and soon all the animals stood in awe. Bumba danced in a way no one expected, with joy and grace that came from the heart. When he finished his dance, all the animals rushed to hug and congratulate him, and the monkey grabbed onto his trunk with all its limbs and didn't want to let go. From that day on, Bumba became the star of the dance evenings in the savannah. He taught everyone that the essence of dancing is not just in beautiful movements, but in the genuine pleasure and joy you feel. Soon, other animals began coming to Bumba to learn how to dance. Even the lion and zebra, who used to laugh, now eagerly learned from him, understanding that dancing is not just about movement, but a state of the soul. That's the fun and instructive story of how Bumba the elephant learned to dance. It's time to activate the magical compass and return to the Library of Wonders. Now, dear listeners, I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Why do you think Bumba was able to learn to dance? What helped him overcome his fears and doubts? And what do you think we can learn from Bumba? I eagerly await your responses and impressions. Until next time, dear listeners, in our Library of Wonders. Good evening, dear listeners. It's me again, your friend Alexian. Today, I invite you to visit my good friend, a pug named Bagel. Let's take my magical compass, which will open the path to this amazing story, and quickly set off on a new magical journey together. In a distant and cozy town called Fluffville, there lived a pug named Bagel. Bagel was not quite an ordinary pug. His eyes always looked in different directions, which gave him a special charm and made him a favourite among all the residents. He lived in a small house with a red roof on Paw Street, where everyone knew him as the kindest and most cheerful dog in the area. One day, while walking in the park, Bagel stumbled upon a strange, shiny stone. Curiosity got the better of him, and he decided to sniff it. As soon as his nose touched the stone, something incredible happened. Bagel felt his short paws begin to vibrate, and his ears fluttered like butterfly wings. The stone dissolved into the air like a mirage. He didn't immediately understand what it meant, but he felt that something inside him had changed. A few days passed, and Bagel continued living his usual life until one day something amazing happened. That day, he was playing with friends in the park when he noticed that the ball they were playing with had rolled up a high hill. Without hesitation, Bagel ran after it. And then something incredible happened. He soared into the air like a feather and landed right on top of the hill where the ball lay. At first, Bagel couldn't believe his eyes, but then he realized it was no accident. After this incident, Bagel discovered he had amazing abilities. First, he could fly like a feather, allowing him to quickly reach the most inaccessible places. Second, he became incredibly fast, able to run at such speed that it seemed as if he disappeared and reappeared in another place. Third, he gained the ability to understand the language of the wind, which helped him find lost items and return them to their owners. From then on, Bagel began using his new skills. He helped deliver forgotten umbrellas and hats that the wind had taken from the residents of Fluffville, returning them to their owners with incredible speed. He also put on amusing shows for children, jumping over ropes and running in circles so fast that it seemed as if he disappeared and reappeared in another place. To activate his abilities, Bagel came up with a funny ritual. He had to jump 3 times in place and then do a somersault over his head. It looked so funny that every time he did it, everyone around couldn't help but laugh. One day, trouble struck in Fluffville. A balloon with an important message for the town's mayor got stuck in the park. Without hesitation, Bagel activated his abilities, jumped 3 times, and did a somersault. He soared into the air like a feather and skillfully caught the balloon, bringing it back to the ground. The townspeople were thrilled and organized a celebration in Bagel's honor, where everyone could enjoy delicious pastries and lemonade. Thus began the story of Bagel the Superhero Pug, who was always ready to help and bring a smile to everyone in need. And this was just the beginning of his amazing adventures. It's time to activate the magical compass and return to the Library of Wonders. We will meet Bagel again. For where Bagel is, there are adventures, fun, and wonders. Did you enjoy this adventure? Please tell me what you liked about this journey. I eagerly await your impressions. Until next time, dear listeners. A magical evening, dear listeners. It's me again, your friend Alexian. I hope that after all our adventures together, we've already become friends. But if you're here for the first time, I'm sure we'll become lifelong friends. Today, I invite you to the world of ancient Japan, where honor and valor were above all. This is the story of a brave samurai named Takeshi, whose courage and self-sacrifice became legendary. Let's take my magical compass, which will open the path to this tale, and embark on this exciting journey together. In ancient times, when the cherry blossoms bloomed especially lushly, a mysterious enemy appeared in one of the Japanese provinces, a sinister demon that brought chaos and destruction. People lived in fear, and no one dared to confront the monster. Upon learning of this, Takeshi could not stand aside. He knew he had to protect his people, even if it would cost him his life. Realizing that the demon could not be defeated with ordinary weapons, Takeshi went to a sacred grove to seek advice from the spirits of his ancestors. In the silence and peace of the grove, he appealed to them for help. The spirits of the ancestors heard him and appeared as glowing figures. They gave Takeshi an amulet, saying, "This amulet will help you in battle, but remember, the true strength of a samurai is in his heart. You must be ready to sacrifice yourself to save others." When Takeshi returned to his native village, he saw the demon preparing for another attack. Without fear or hesitation, the samurai rushed into battle. The fight was fierce, and soon Takeshi realized that the power of the amulet was not enough to defeat the demon. Then he understood that he must invest his soul into the amulet to save all the inhabitants of the land. With this decision, the amulet glowed brightly, and the demon was vanquished. However, having given up his soul, Takeshi became withdrawn and joyless, as if all happiness had left him. People came out to greet him, but he, like a living statue, passed by without hearing them. Everyone was puzzled, but then the spirits of the ancestors appeared, deciding to intervene and help Takeshi, the man who saved many. The spirits of the ancestors told the people what Takeshi had sacrificed to defeat the demon, but they also revealed that there was a way to return to Takeshi what he had given up forever. People needed to give a part of their soul to create a new soul for Takeshi from small fragments. Each of the people who were there and heard the spirits of the ancestors was ready to give their entire soul, but the spirits said that the best and purest soul would be formed only when as many people as possible selflessly shared a piece of their spirit. The village elder, wise Yoshinori, said that in this case, all of Japan must learn about this, because each person must decide for themselves whether they are ready to thank Takeshi. Yoshinori decided to go to Emperor Hiroto and tell him the story as it is. The spirits assured that they would help the elder. When Yoshinori arrived at the emperor's palace, he was initially not allowed in, but the spirits of the ancestors, invisible to the eye, whispered trust in the elder to the guards. Thus, Yoshinori was able to see Emperor Hiroto. The emperor was wise and listened to the elder, but he doubted the truth of the story, as the elder asked for too much. After all, he could be an evil sorcerer. But then the spirits helped the elder again, appearing as glowing cranes that circled above the palace and sang a heavenly song. This became a good omen for the emperor. Convinced, the emperor ordered messengers to be sent to all cities and villages to inform all the inhabitants of this story. The messengers also had instructions describing the ritual that each of the residents who wanted to share a part of their soul with Takeshi should perform. and the time when the ritual should be conducted. It was important to perform the ritual simultaneously. All the good people of Japan responded, and at the appointed hour, the ritual was conducted. Takeshi received a new soul woven from the fragments of the souls of the entire nation. After this, joy returned to Takeshi, and he began to feel all the people of Japan, becoming a guardian of peace and a legend. And so, our tale comes to an end. It's time to activate the compass and return to the Library of Wonders. But before we say goodbye, I want to ask you a few questions that will help you think more deeply about the meaning of self-sacrifice, as in Takeshi's story. Do you think Takeshi performed a brave deed or not, and why? Recall a moment when you, like Takeshi and other heroes of the tale, faced a choice requiring self-sacrifice. How did you act, and what did you feel at that moment? What personal qualities do you think helped Takeshi make the decision to sacrifice himself? Do you have such qualities, and how do you develop them in yourself? Thank you for joining me on this magical journey. I hope you enjoyed this captivating story as much as I did. Until next time, my dear listeners, I eagerly await our next adventure.